Jack Ebling here with Dan Kilbridge from Beaver Stadium. Press coverage for SpartanTailgate.com. Michigan State Spartans, 11 wins, Dan, and Big Ten champions. Can never take that away regardless of what the BCS or any other bowl says.
And it wasn't always easy. It never is for the Spartans, seemingly. They overcame those mistakes late in the game and were able to do it and get to 11 wins for the first time in school history.
And they did it for the most part without any takeaways, just the one interception, which was promptly given back on a fumble. But Michigan State controlled this game on the ground as well as they could, and that was something they were unable to do last time they were here with a similar chance. But 35 guys who'd gone through that experience rose up and delivered for Michigan State in a house of horrors, a place they hadn't won since 1965.
And one of the guys who delivered had never played before here. That's Edwin Baker. I mean, he ran so tough late in the game. I thought he was barreling through guys with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You don't see that very often. His offensive line gave him plenty of holes today, and he doesn't need much time to hit those. I also thought the offensive line protected Cousins very well, which they needed to do considering his state. So I think this is a game which, much like Coach Dantonio said would be the case earlier this week, that was won up front.
I thought maybe the best player for Michigan State today, unsung hero, the Pennsylvania kid, Colin Neely. He had the big stop on 3rd and 1 where he penetrated. He also had another play where he forced and moved Matt McGloin up in the pocket where Jerome Worthy got the sack. He was also held on one play because he was just too tough to control on the perimeter. He played a terrific game.
Absolutely, and he's just one of those guys where he hasn't played great all season long. He's had moments where he's struggled, and so it's nice to see those guys step up in games like this and have his best game of the year without question, I think, in his home state. That was something really special, and I thought the defensive line played particularly well, including Jerome Worthy, who got that sack, which you mentioned. Neely kind of forced him in there, but he really put a good hit on it.
Michigan State, besides running the ball, passed it effectively enough. B.J. Cunningham with 2 touchdown catches, a great job of shielding off the defender on the last one. And Brian Linthicum, the entire tight end core came through today, but Linthicum with a couple of very big catches. And then getting that onside kick, and historically, Michigan State has had as much problems as any team in the country with onside kicks.
Yeah, as recently as last year with the Central Michigan game, you think about that. But I think you're absolutely right with the tight ends. It's not often you see teams pick against Penn State's linebackers, but that's something we saw today with those tight ends running those under routes, and it's something they haven't done much in the past couple of weeks. It was their strength last year, one of them. It was a strength early in the season. They kind of went away from it, and I think that was just a great game plan from Treadwell, and he called a good one for much of this game.
Still a lot of guys banged up. You could see Kirk Cousins still unable to step onto that front foot, but made some big throws. Keyshawn Martin not close to 100%, but he did get loose for 35 yards on a reverse. And then had a play that looked like it was going to be passing to one side, came back the other way, threw the ball effectively, and made the plays when they had to be made, and I guess that's the story of this team in this season.
Absolutely. When you look at all the games they had to come back and win late, they didn't have to come back and win this one, but it sure felt like it the way the fourth quarter played out. It seemed like they had battled back in that fourth quarter to eventually win the Big Ten championship, and I think it also says something that they were able to do it on this field. That's something Mark Dantonio stressed, that it was important to do because they hadn't done it in so long. It was just another hurdle for this team and this program to overcome, and they did just that today.
Hadn't won here since Joe Paterno was an assistant to Rip Engel, and Joe Paterno's first loss as a head coach was against Michigan State. Who knows, might be his last loss as a head coach. Well, this much we do know. Michigan State, a Big Ten champion for the first time since 1990, and now off to a bowl game. We'll wait and see where that is. Obviously, Wisconsin looks like a strong choice for the Rose Bowl. After that, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, looking for teams. There's going to be a second Big Ten at-large team. It's really going to come down to Michigan State and Ohio State. But Michigan State also, if they go to the Capital One Bowl, will face a very strong team from the SEC.
Absolutely. Mark Dantonio talked about that, strength of schedule and how it all plays out with the BCS. He had some very strong words reminding us that they did beat Wisconsin, and he emphasized, he said it twice, he said convincingly they beat Wisconsin. So he talked about, the way that he thinks their schedule was tougher than Ohio State's and Wisconsin, and he thinks they deserve a BCS bid as much as either of those two schools, if not more. And I think it's interesting to hear Dantonio campaign like that. It's something we haven't seen him do much of this season, and we're really seeing some more of it right now, and I'm sure Spartan fans will join him in their campaigning later tonight and throughout the next month here.
The storybook season is not over, but this phase is. The regular season, Michigan State, Big Ten co-champs, 11 wins for the first time, and they slay the demons of Beaver Stadium. Jack Ebling here with Dan Kilbridge, press coverage for SpartanTailgate.com.